All right, Winston's mom, you finally did it. You left a comment long enough to warrant a video response instead of me trying to hammer out answers to the whole thing one sentence at a time, incrementally, and then never finishing. That's normally what happens when you leave me comments. Is I respond to the first paragraph and then probably respond to the second paragraph and mean to eventually get around to all of it, but don't. So let's read this. Flow state. I rarely do this, but because you are wicked smart and you speak your mind and you are an ESTP, so you can take this. In my experience with the ESTPs, most of you give better than you take. I give it so hard. That's true. But I have watched you long enough to consider that you are gentle in your nature, so I think I don't need to nurture you and not tell you exactly what I think. That is correct. You have assessed that correctly. You also don't need to, it's flattery's always appreciated, but you don't need to, lube up criticisms with me. What I think, not feel, because I spent more than a few hours looking into this and the Kissinger conspiracy. I am aware of the Dunning-Kruger effect, and while I trust my sources, I verify. I also know how to research government documents, and while you joked about research, I do research easily available government documents and not just social media or published articles. I'm not sure where I joked about that. It's probably somewhere up in the comment thread or in the video. I don't recall. I also don't recall the specific Kissinger conspiracy that you're referring to, but we'll carry on. David Icke is well named. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde was also well named. David is a hero's name with biblical symbology representing good intentions. On the darker side of David, in the shadows, his leanings are icky and go towards the dark side. I see someone who believes in the snake oil he sells. I also see someone who has unexpectedly found he enjoys being in the sour limelight. Duality. Here in David Icke, we see his shadow complex manifest in his bigoted writings. Bigotry is fear, and fear often manifests itself in barely disguised disgust for the others. This goes way to back the caveman who kills the stranger drinking from his pond. Well, fuck that stranger. He needs to get the fuck out of my pond. The salesman in David Icke has found an audience, and the tickets they sell in his show come at a high price. The audience is less and less choosy about what they watch, as long as he soothes their fears by blaming someone else. On the other hand, he is trying to understand synchronicity and Tesla, and he is aware that certain words speak of or represent enlightenment, the awakening that everyone is seeking. I see no signs of individuation or a phoenix rising from the ashes in his bio, but I do recognize someone using buzzwords without really understanding them. Listen to CS talk about Milton, and then listen to Jerry Seinfeld and or David Lynch discuss meditation and enlightenment. Those buzzwords have a meaning Jerry and David understand, and so do I. Go into the 60s sometime and visit a grocery store and look at the tabloid magazines, the rags, the gossip sheets that I grew up seeing on the shelf and not buying. I'm also old enough to have grown up seeing those. They were around well into the 90s. I bought Mad magazines, Playboys for the articles, and of course, when an INTJ says that, believe it, I actually do believe that. From you, I don't know why. I'm sure you looked at the pictures too. I hope you did. But and I bought Science, Political, and Geographic magazines. Our mothers bought those rags. Ask Katie what magazines are all over beauty salons. Oh, I've been there. On the front of those magazine tabloid rags was always a headline that said something about an alien marrying Elizabeth Taylor and their alien baby or something garbage. Our mothers believed these headlines, and the smarter ones laughed at the headlines. But the waters had been muddied by the lizard people who came out of the swamp, and guess what? No one was really sure there was not some truth to this story. That's the point, to muddy the waters and sell magazines. Whether David Icke believes his conspiracy's odd infinitums is real, or he just wants to sell snake oil, or it's a combo of both, this is just garbage and preys, pun intended, on the fears of people who find it easier to blame someone and listen to an authority who explains away their fears by pointing fingers at someone else, preferably an alien or Hillary Clinton. This is just garbage, Taylor, in my opinion, and so is he, but I will keep looking until I find something human in him. That is how I cope with my fears. And as for Kissinger, this story is made up and easy to verify. We can read transcripts of his speeches, and we can check the dates the World Health Organization held their meetings. Easy enough to check on, and I did. Again, don't recall exactly which part you're referring to, which also obviously I didn't check that. It was a 2.5 hour long video. Anyways, Henry Kissinger is someone very familiar to me, of course. I began my political life sitting in the lap of my conservative retired U.S. Army colonel of a grandfather. We dressed for dinner and believed in the conservative principles of states' rights and that the Republican Party once said they believed in. Now, looking back in hindsight, Kissinger was a human being, and I think perhaps a Mark Levin of an intellectual. All showed dressed up, complete with elbow patches and branded as television worthy. However, his generation would and did rise to the occasion when necessary, and I think he did more good than perhaps a false idol might have. His writings, as I read them now, are not nearly as deep as once they appeared to me when I was only 18. But he liked big butts, and I cannot lie, that man had charisma and charm. He dated the hottest starlets in Hollywood, and he was an A-lister who made for a great cocktail party coupe. Mad Men style, check out Jill St. John sometime when you need a cold shower. Okay, hit me with your best shot, fire away. So, now let's go through this and start to respond to it. So this isn't really, first of all, I don't feel at all attacked. I don't expect people to agree with me on everything. That's so this isn't really an attack. So the whole, you don't need to worry about that. And so what's jumping out to me right off the bat is we have very different authorities that we trust. Research government documents, blah, blah. So this paragraph about the Jekyll and Hyde, it's he says a lot of dark shit. The fact that something is dark doesn't make it wrong factually, and it doesn't make it wrong ethically. Some things are dark, and ignoring dark things isn't a virtue. The snake oil he sells, I'm not sure if I'm not sure about the snake oil thing. Really, that seems sort of like you're just trying to take it down. Which I get it, you don't like him, but why do you think it's snake oil? And and I also have no problem with somebody enjoying the limelight of their, you know, I'm sure he does like the limelight. He's been ridiculed fucking across the globe for 30 years, but he hasn't quit saying what he's got to say and doing his research and doing his thing. And he's getting positive attention for it in a big way now. I'm sure he likes it. He absolutely deserves, anybody who's got that much grind deserves to enjoy their success, even if their success is in dealing with bad things or, the Mr. Hyde stuff. Duality. Here in David Icke, we see a shadow complex. Bigoted. I don't. What are you talking about? I've never seen nor heard anything bigoted from him. So let's clear that up. He's not bigoted. If he is, I haven't seen it. He's got a fuckload of shit out there that I haven't seen. He's been writing and talking for longer than I've been alive almost. So is it possible? Sure. But I don't think he's bigoted. It seems like you're using that word to refer to somebody who might be hateful or aggressive, but that'd be the wrong context. So if he's actually bigoted, let me know. If you're just using that word to refer to somebody who's got a bit of malice in him, then that's incorrect, and you should not do that, because that's calling someone a bigot when they're not it's a lie. I mean, it's a lie. So just don't lie about people if that's what you're doing. Certain buzzwords, so no sign of individuation. So again, it looks to me like you don't like his personality. I get it. There's nothing wrong with that, and I'm not trying to discredit your opinion, but it seems like a lot of this, like not seeing any enlightenment or individuation, or whatever, in him. I mean, that's fine. A lot of this, basically what you're saying is Henry Kissinger is good, and he was wrong about that, and you don't like him because he doesn't seem nice. So he can't understand enlightenment or the awakening or what, this woo-woo stuff that I'm sure understand worse than both you and David Icke. So I'm going to call these criticisms what they are and say that those are subjective impressions, which everybody's entitled to, but it's just not going to hold up in court. Tabloids. Okay, so I see. Yeah, I get what you're saying. And that is basically the standard response that mainstream media and politicians, that is the very white bread response to any accusations, conspiracy theories. Why? I mean, obviously, tabloids are a bit more outlandish from what I remember. Alien babies with old actresses. That's a different sort of thing than what David Icke was talking about in that video I linked. which was more like, hey, there's a group of powerful elite people that are trying to increase their power over all of us. So that, which is actually a very reasonable claim. I don't see why anyone would think it's unreasonable to suspect that people would scheme or collude or conspire to continue to increase their leg up on others. It's human nature. It happens. If you don't think it happens, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. But here you're trying to chalk up what was the content of that video that I linked. None of it is on the same level at all as aliens fucking Elizabeth Taylor. So don't straw man me. Now we get into the lizards coming out of the water. I'm not sure if you're speaking metaphorically or if you're referring to his infamous lizard people claim. And also you commented about the lizard stuff earlier, how you think it's remnants of collective unconscious, which is an interesting perspective. You might be right. I don't know. Personally, I just ignore the lizard shit. I don't know. On the off chance that he's right and the Queen of England is a fucking reptilian, I would have no way of verifying it. I'm sure it's not right, but I just don't even give it any thought. Who knows? Whatever. Right? You know, I don't concern myself with it. Everything that he's saying, and I understand that this is kind of a inconsistent message coming from me, but on all, I don't think that claim, which is consistent, well, I don't think that claim taints everything of the rest of what he's saying entirely. A lot of what he says, a lot of it is regurgitated research. Do I fact check everything he presents? Fuck no. Nobody's got time to do that shit with what they listen to. Fact check every single thing. I fact check important shit, or things that I'm particularly curious about. But yeah. So that's where I'm at with the lizard thing. I don't know if he's, I've been listening to David Icke for not as long as he's been around. I'm a fairly new fan. And I really haven't, he's not preaching the lizard people shit. I'm sure he did it. I mean, I know that he did it at some point, but it doesn't seem to be a big part of his work. Certainly not his newer shit. So I just let it be where it is. Chalk it up to, everybody gets to be fucking nuts sometimes. It's his get out of jail free card. Who knows? He got some nuts shit. I got some nuts shit. You got ferrets. Everybody's kind of nuts in some ways. But as long as it's not, and I see what you did with C.S. Joseph there where you mentioned him. What's different between C.S. Joseph and David Icke, in my perspective? One, I wouldn't say I'm thoroughly familiar with all of David Icke's work. I think I'm more familiar with C.S. Joseph's because there's just a lot less of it. But C.S. Joseph, I'm trying to explain this without going down the C.S. Joseph rabbit hole. He takes existing systems and fucks them up. He fucks up shit that works, claims that it is the original working shit and then teaches it to people who don't know better. Then he gouges the fuck out of them for services and dicks around in their life because they trust this dude to counsel them on shit to affect their marriages. But anybody who knows a medium amount of typology understands the just monumental volumes of complete and utter bullshit coming out of his mouth. He's thoroughly saturated in bullshit with a few grains, you know. With the truths in C.S. Joseph are put together in such a way that the whole thing is bullshit. With David Icke, I think you and I are probably going to disagree. I don't think David Icke is that way. I think he's got some bullshit. You would expect somebody to have bullshit. If your job is to research into and report back on things that people don't want you to know about, it's absolutely reasonable to expect that you're going to get some things wrong. So I'm cool with that. I don't see any intentional deceit in David Icke. It drips off of C.S. Joseph. Preys on the fears of people who find it easier to blame someone else and listen to an authority, preferably an alien or Hillary Clinton. Again, straw manning the alien. Hillary Clinton is indeed absolutely one of the most corrupt figures of my lifetime. So if you're acting like she doesn't deserve some blame and finger pointing, you're way wrong. She deserves some shit. Also, I don't find, personally, as far as preying on people's fears, that's not the response I have to listening to him. I kind of the opposite. You know, I'm not. It does kind of piss me off, but it's also refreshing in a way to have somebody kind of piece together things that aren't pieced together by normal mainstream day-to-day life, you know. And I don't always agree with his conclusions at all. But it is nice to have another reference point, another perspective to take into my own and use basically to form my own worldview, I suppose, instead of getting the same CNN, MSNBC, Fox. You know, just it's nice to have some variety, and especially, you know, I'm NI seeking, and he does that shit. This is just garbage. Taylor, in my opinion, so is he. Yes, I know. It's thoroughly clear that you know what? He's garbage. So this is garbage. So is he. That sounds like the bigotry that you describe up here. Don't be a bigot, if that's how you're using that word. I will keep looking until I find something human about him. That's how I cope with my fear. I don't understand. Well, if you don't like him, then fuck it. Dislike him. I still like him. I don't know what this whatever. He's fine. I'm sure he's human. Guys, you're being dramatic. Oh, and then the Henry Kissinger. Yeah. And it also seems like you have a thing for Henry Kissinger. Fine. Your background you describe here, your groupie demeanor towards Henry Kissinger Um, yeah, you're kind of a romantic. You like that old school shit. I get it. That's fine. Ultimately, you trust authorities, like the general ones, or leaders. I don't. You grew up on your Army Colonel grandpa's lap dressing up for dinner. I didn't. You think that these authority systems are working, and this is my interpretation, of course. I could be wrong. But it seems to me like you think that the authority and power systems we have in place work. I have had very different experience with them. I do not like them. I have seen their absolute dysfunction. And I don't know how to phrase this without sounding pessimistic as fuck, but I don't believe that anybody's... I don't believe in the altruism of politicians, leaders, fucking titans of industry, whoever. All the important people, I don't believe that they give... Bernie Sanders doesn't give a fuck about people. That's what I believe. None of them give a fuck about people. So whenever I hear somebody like Bill Gates insisting on pushing headfirst into vaccines and mandating that everybody be vaccinated for work, in order to work, Bill Gates wants to develop a vaccine really quick, not get it reviewed by the FDA, and I probably phrased that wrong. There's a different clip where I've seen of Bill Gates talking about how Trump was inquiring about looking into the safety of vaccines, and Bill Gates basically poo-pooed the idea away, and I don't think it ever went anywhere. But Bill Gates is opposed to people investigating the safety of vaccines. That's fucking sketchy, right? That's a red flag. You've got somebody who wants to vaccinate microchip people and make that a requirement to work. And he's saying that, and he's trying to claim that he's doing this because he cares about people. Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. Which, by the way, the World Health Organization, I'm not going to get into that right now, but which is basically Bill Gates. Bill Gates owns that shit, basically. Not doing good. They're not a good institution. They covered up coronavirus. They covered up China's bullshit. They allowed China to hide and then misreport the coronavirus outbreak for a long time. They're complicit in that. They're an accomplice to China. So, anyways, I'm using Bill Gates as an example of an authority or an institution, maybe, that I suspect you probably think at least medium well of. He's presentable. He's polite. He says he's doing good things for good reasons. And I'm pretty sure that dude is... Yeah. I mean, Bill Gates can choke on a bag of dicks. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds to me like what we've basically got here is completely different orientations towards institutions and formal authority structures. You and I do. It also seems like we have different sort of personal, visceral responses to David Icke. Seems like you obviously quite dislike him. And I kind of like the dude. He's crabby, but he's direct. He's puts together some. I think he's an ISTP actually. Um, so I find him. I see what you're saying about him being dark, but I don't find him disagreeable at all. And I also saw you. I think I've seen you say before something about, you know, your feelings about Trump, which, uh, you know, I get tons of people hate Trump. I tend to assume that the people who hate Trump know about Trump through other sources and little segmented clips, and haven't ever actually listened to like him speak unedited or unexplained. Listen to one of these COVID briefings. How can you not? I mean, he's honest, relatively. There's something about David Icke and Donald Trump and people like that. They're abrasive. So you can trust that to some degree. They're willing to offend you, and have a higher allegiance to truthfulness than pleasantness. I trust that mindset more than, an Obama or any other typical figure. Actually, if somebody's too polished, that's a big red flag for me. If they're not abrasive or rude sometimes, if they don't ever tell you shit that you don't like, that's a huge red flag. So maybe you should consider whether your perspective is selective. A lot of people's is. So anyways, oh yeah. Also, one more thing about verifying, trusting authorities and verifying things. Look up Project Mockingbird. And since you pull, when you go to pull the official government documents, Freedom of Information could only find, I think it was 6 pages. So there's not a lot to read through, but Operation Mockingbird was a CIA operation that they started, I think it was 50s, 60s, to influence. And a big part of what they did is manage press. Now, allegedly, Project Mockingbird ended at some point in time, but use your NI, it's your dominant function. That shit didn't end. Project Mockingbird's still going on. So the mainstream media outlets and the keepers of information, like Google or Facebook or Twitter, is it any surprise when you think about it in that context? Is it any surprise that these big institutions, the official sources, all have generally the same perspective on things? Everybody hates Trump. All these things hate Trump. All these things are freaked the fuck out about coronavirus. And I mean, just the trying to figure out how to describe things without actually getting into the specifics, because I have some nuanced views, and I don't want to go into each issue, and I don't want to leave people with the impression that I disagree with some of the things that I would point out. But regardless, the point is, there's obviously consistency in things that are covered and things that are not covered. And there are things that are not covered that you think for sure need to be covered by one of these motherfuckers, if they weren't all sort of on basically the same page. So, anyways, good talk, and I don't know. We're probably gonna have to disagree or agree to disagree on this, and hopefully, yeah, I guess hopefully you stop having the opinions that you have that I disagree with. But whatever. Good talk. Later.